Attention passionate Atlanta, Falcons fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC South and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Atlanta Falcons' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Atlanta Falcons fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Atlanta, FALCONS. Let's get to the news now, folks. When we talk about the NFL and the NFC South, everyone's eyes are on Atlanta. Why? Because the Falcons are not just quietly building, they're positioning themselves for a serious shot at contention. And with recent rumors swirling around the league, there's a lot of buzz about potential blockbuster moves that could reshape the division. One of the most intriguing stories right now involves the Miami Dolphins and a potential trade that could send shockwaves through the league. And believe me, the implications for Atlanta could be enormous. So, let's break it down. The Dolphins, as we know, are navigating some tough salary cap challenges. They're trying to figure out which veteran players they might need to move on from in order to clear some space and restructure their roster for a competitive push. One name that's been front and center in trade discussions is Jalen Ramsey. Now, Ramsey is a phenomenal player, no doubt about it, but his contract, that's a whole different story. The Dolphins are trying to find a suitor willing to take on his hefty deal, which includes a guaranteed $24 million. That's a big ask, and understandably, many teams are hesitant. Teams are spooked by the size of that guarantee, especially in a league where cap management is everything. But here's the thing, despite the hesitations, it seems like an agreement could be on the horizon. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler mentioned that he believes the trade will happen soon, possibly within the next week or two. The Dolphins are patient, waiting for the right deal to come along, and Ramsey's talent is undeniable. When he's healthy and motivated, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, a true game changer. If the trade goes through, it could open up some cap space for Miami, but it also leaves a question mark about their secondary depth. Will they be able to replace the impact Ramsey has? That's a story for another day. But what about other veterans? Well, another name that's been floating around in trade talks is Tyreek Hill. Now, Hill is a different kind of story. He's currently on a $90 million contract, and even though there's been speculation about him possibly being moved, Hill himself seems pretty committed to Miami right now. Recently, he's been making headlines with comments that show he's focused on the upcoming season. Hill said, "Every day I'm trying to prove myself as one of those guys this team can depend on in crucial moments." That's a guy who's laser-focused on making an impact, not on leaving the Dolphins. But, and here's the interesting part, Hill's name keeps popping up in trade rumors. Why? Because teams see his explosive potential and wonder if the Dolphins might be willing to move him for the right price, especially as they look to reshape their roster. Now, here's where it gets even more exciting for Atlanta Falcons fans. Rumors are swirling that Hill could be a potential target for Atlanta. That would be a massive upgrade for the Falcons' offense, and it's not just idle speculation. You see, Michael Penix Jr., the Washington Huskies quarterback, has been touted as a game changer for Atlanta's offense. He's a young, talented passer with a strong arm and great mobility, someone who could transform Atlanta into a top 10 offense if given the right weapons. But as good as Penix is, he needs weapons, speed, explosiveness, and reliable hands. That's where Tyreek Hill comes in. If the Falcons manage to land him, it could be a real turning point. Hill would serve as a deep threat, stretching defenses and creating more space for Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Think about the possibilities. An offense that's not just functional but downright explosive. And Hill, according to reports, has undergone a body transformation this offseason, dropping some weight to increase his speed and agility. That's a clear sign he's serious about elevating his game, and if he joins Atlanta, he could become a true difference maker. Imagine him lining up on the outside, stretching defenses vertically, and opening up the run game with his speed. It would be a nightmare for defenses, and a dream for Falcons fans. Now, let's put this into perspective. The Falcons have been building steadily over the past couple of seasons, drafting well, and making strategic moves to position themselves for a playoff run. They've got a young defense that's improving, with key players like Grady Jarrett, A.J. Terrell, and rookie sensations stepping up. Offensively, they've been working on developing their young core, with Desmond Ridder showing flashes of promise at quarterback and a promising offensive line. But to truly take the next step and challenge the league's top teams, they need that extra spark, that game-changing weapon. That's why a move for Tyreek Hill would be so significant. Atlanta's offense has potential, but it's also been somewhat predictable at times. Adding a player like Hill, with his speed and playmaking ability, could transform the Falcons into a true threat on every down. And let's not forget, Hill's recent offseason body transformation isn't just about aesthetics, it's about performance. He's committed to being faster, more agile, and more explosive, traits that would make him an even bigger problem for defenses. Now, of course, all of this speculation is just that, speculation. But it's rooted in reality, and the NFL offseason is always full of surprises. The Falcons are in a unique position right now because they have the cap space, the draft picks, and the young talent to make a splash if they choose to. If they can add a player of Hill's caliber, it could be the final piece they need to push them into serious playoff contention, and who knows, maybe even a Super Bowl run. But beyond just individual players, it's the bigger picture that really excites Falcons fans. The NFC South is evolving rapidly. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a bit of flux after Tom Brady's retirement, and the New Orleans Saints are trying to rebuild around their core. So the division is wide open. If Atlanta makes a bold move, whether that's trading for Hill, acquiring a veteran linebacker, or bolstering their offensive line, they could become the team to beat in the NFC South. That's what makes these rumors so compelling. They're not just idle chatter, they're potential game changers. And looking at the history of the Falcons, they've always been a team that's capable of surprising us. Remember back to the 2016 season, when they stormed all the way to the Super Bowl, or the resilience shown in recent years despite injuries and setbacks. This franchise has a culture of fighting, of always aiming higher. They've got the young talent, the strategic mindset, and now, potentially, the opportunity to make a blockbuster move that could define the next era of Falcons football. Now, I want to take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture here. We've seen teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati make bold moves and pay off, transforming their seasons overnight. The Falcons have been quietly building, but now the window is opening to make a real statement. Whether it's through a trade, a draft pick, or a strategic signing, the team is clearly aiming for something bigger. And if they manage to land a star like Hill, or even acquire a different game changer, they could leap into the upper echelon of the NFL faster than we expect. Of course, all of this hinges on the decisions made in the coming weeks. The NFL offseason is unpredictable, full of twists and turns, but what's certain is that Atlanta is not sitting idly by. They're watching, they're planning, and they're ready to strike if the right opportunity presents itself. The division rivals better be paying attention because the Falcons are not just content with being a middle-tier team anymore. They want to be contenders, and they're willing to make bold moves to get there. So, as we keep an eye on all these rumors, I want to remind you, Falcons fans, that this is a pivotal time. The offseason is when teams set the foundation for their future success, and Atlanta's management knows that. The potential trade scenarios, the player transformations, the strategic moves, they all point to one thing: the Falcons are aiming high. And if they pull off even one of these big deals, like acquiring Tyreek Hill or making a bold draft choice, it could accelerate their trajectory towards the playoffs, maybe even beyond. Now, let's talk about what this means for the division and the league overall. The NFC South has been a bit of a roller coaster in recent years. The Buccaneers had their dominance with Brady, but now with his retirement and other teams rebuilding, the door is wide open. If Atlanta manages to get a player like Hill, it instantly elevates their offense to a new level, making them a more complete, dangerous team. That kind of weapon doesn't just help in the regular season, it's a crucial piece for playoff success. And the ripple effect could be significant. Other teams will have to respond. The Saints, for example, are trying to rebuild around their young quarterback, Derek Carr, and adding offensive weapons will be key. The Panthers are in a similar boat, trying to find their identity after a rough season. The Falcons, with these bold moves, could position themselves as the team to beat in that division, which would be a huge confidence boost for the fan base and a warning shot to the rest of the league. In the end, folks, what we're witnessing is a fascinating chapter in Falcons history. The team has been quietly assembling the pieces, and now the puzzle could come together with a blockbuster trade or signing. The NFL offseason is the perfect time for surprises, and Atlanta is poised to make some noise. Whether it's through acquiring a star receiver like Hill, drafting a future franchise quarterback, or upgrading key positions on defense, the Falcons are showing that they're not content with just participating. They want to compete at the highest level. And this is exactly what makes following the Falcons so exciting right now. Every rumor, every potential move, every offseason story matters because it sets the stage for what's next. Will they pull the trigger on a bold trade? Will they surprise us all with a draft steal? The possibilities are endless, and that's what keeps us on the edge of our seats. So, Falcons fans, stay tuned because the next few weeks could be some of the most exciting in franchise history. Keep your eyes on the news, on the rumors, and on the moves that could reshape your team's future. The NFC South is getting more competitive, and the Falcons are ready to rise to the challenge. This is a team with a plan, with talent, and with the desire to make 2024 a season to remember. The foundation is being laid, and I, for one, can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Remember, this franchise has always been about resilience, about fighting back, and about dreaming big. And now, more than ever, that dream is within reach. And now, Atlanta Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Atlanta Falcons. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Atlanta Falcons news.